Chapter 2132. Shocked. It took the carriage an entire day to travel at full speed from the provincial capital to Anne's province. Departing at dawn, they arrived after nightfall, making for a long and tiring journey. Typically, travelers would take their time on such a journey, stopping for a night along the way. However, with the recent repairs to the road, completing the entire trip in a single day became feasible. Miss Fong and her companions finally arrived 3 days after Shao Yunduan's departure. Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan chose not to divulge the reason for summoning them, simply expressing their desire to spend time together. Initially hesitant, eldest uncle was eventually persuaded, especially after growing anxious upon receiving word of their summons. Despite their eagerness to reunite, their journey was further delayed upon reaching the provincial capital. Nevertheless, they finally arrived in Anne's province, relieved to be reunited with their loved ones. Luckily, Shao Yunduan acted swiftly to send someone to fetch Miss Fong and the others, ensuring a smooth journey without encountering any obstacles. However, upon arriving and seeing Zhao Shu and Tao Tao, Miss Fang's mood soured. Despite her displeasure, she refrained from expressing her feelings openly. When inquired about Shao Yunduan's whereabouts, Qiao Xian simply smiled and informed them that he was occupied with work in the provincial capital. Satisfied with the explanation, Miss Fong and eldest uncle didn't press further. After resting for 2 days, Qiao Xian waited until the children were occupied before revealing the truth about Shao Yunduan's recent actions. As expected, their reactions were incredulous, with widened eyes and gaping mouths. Eldest uncle, in particular, was overcome with emotion, expressing disbelief and dismay at the perceived betrayal. Qiao Xian was left speechless, grappling with the weight of their reaction. Miss Fang's response was swift and impassioned, her words cutting through the tension in the room. "Eldest uncle, what are you talking about?" she demanded, her tone sharp. "Didn't you hear what Miss Qiao just said? Wulong didn't choose this path willingly. He was pushed to the brink, forced into a corner. What choice did he have? Are we going to stand by and watch as those villains harm him?" Eldest uncle stuttered, attempting to clarify his stance. I didn't mean that, either. Of course, I want Wulong to be safe, but can't there be another solution?" Miss Fang's expression hardened into a sneer. "Do you think Wulong hasn't considered all options? Are you implying he's foolish? If there were another way, do you think he'd have resorted to this? Even in our remote village, we've heard about the challenges he's facing. But consider the difficulty he's under. Those people have targeted him deliberately. They won't listen to reason. What nonsense. How could you suggest that Wulong is rebelling? He's been wronged and forced into this situation. When the time is right, he'll set things straight. Stop casting aspersions and trust in him. We don't know the full story. We should listen to Wulong and support him without hesitation. Don't complicate matters with baseless accusations. Both of you understand this," she concluded, shooting a pointed look at her family. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 2133. Is that what she thinks? Ms. Zu's complexion paled, her panic evident. Shao Sanlang and Yang Xiaoni exchanged nods of agreement. Mother is absolutely right. Fifth brother can't simply be picked on. What if something happens? Who will stand up for him? It's unjust. Yes, indeed. Fifth brother wouldn't act without reason. Shao Daolong glanced at his parents before addressing them. He scratched his head, expressing his thoughts. "I don't think Wulong is foolish. He must have his reasons. Dad, since we're here, let's not stir up trouble for Wulong." Miss Su vigorously nodded in agreement. Absolutely, yes. Though she didn't fully comprehend the conversation between fifth sister-in-law and her mother, it resonated with her. Her mother's words always held weight. She grasped her father's implication. He implied that fifth brother had revolted. Rebellion. Was that what was happening? Despite her lack of formal education and literacy, she understood these concepts. Furthermore, this time, fifth brother had dispatched someone to bring the entire family. Initially, she had assumed he was simply homesick and wanted the family to join him. Now, it finally dawned on her, eldest uncle stood no chance against Miss Fong, and the entire family rallied behind her. Yet, what caught him off guard was that even though Shao Yunduan was at fault this time, Miss Fong, as a compassionate mother, still stood up for him and the entire family. Eldest uncle grew so furious that his words stumbled out incoherently. Do as you please. Say what you will. Wulong is already in such a state, and you still insist he did the right thing. Wulong, what's gotten into you? You don't grasp the child's struggles, nor do you show any concern for him. Miss Fang's eyes welled up with tears as she wiped them away, lamenting, if it weren't for Wulong and Wulong's daughter-in-law, where would we be today? Have you ever thought about Wulong? He's suffering unjustly, being dragged into this mess. You're not aiding him, instead, you utter such callous remarks. Do as you please. I stand by Wulong, no matter what. Whatever may come, they'll stand by Wulong. That's final. Eldest uncle, his indignation was palpable, yet he couldn't fathom why things always spiraled out like this. He was undeniably right, so why did it seem like he was at fault once again? That's not what I meant. Are you talking nonsense? When did I mention Wulong? Ahem, I can't be bothered to say it. Do as you please. Eldest uncle's anger flared, prompting him to storm out. Just go, I don't need your input. I'm warning you, no more trouble. Miss Fong snapped, then turned to Qiao Xian with a forced smile. She spoke affectionately, Miss Qiao, don't mind him. He's just being stubborn due to his age. Let's disregard him. Wulong can handle things as he sees fit. I trust my son, and I'll support him unconditionally. Shao Sanlang and Shao Dalong nodded in agreement. Yes, well, stand by fifth brother and fifth sister-in-law. Absolutely. I don't know about anything else. Fifth brother and fifth sister-in-law have our support. Count me in too. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2134, Family Reunion. Xiao Xian's heart warmed, and she expressed with a smile, my husband and I are truly reassured by your words, as are my siblings and sister-in-law. Just stay here. With my husband's considerate nature, there's no need to fret over the future or the present. Absolutely, I have utmost faith in you. Miss Fong nodded, returning the smile. Qiao Xian turned to Shao Dalong and Miss Su, her smile unwavering. I'll ensure Junyan attends school once he's settled here, so he can focus on his studies without delay. Miss Su sighed with relief, nodding eagerly. That's wonderful. I hope you can guide him well. Qiao Xian beamed. Rest assured, sister-in-law. My husband adores our nephews and nieces. With Miss Fang's endorsement, the entire family found solace and settled in An's province. Their presence was invaluable. Tao Tao had assisted them back home, and now, with her here, they could continue working together. Times had changed. An's province boasted ample land with fewer inhabitants. Countless untapped wastelands and swamps awaited development. With Zhao Shu and the resources of the Shao family, they could truly showcase their capabilities. Shao Dalong, Shao Sanlang, Miss Su, and Yang Xiaoni found themselves with no shortage of tasks, keeping them occupied throughout the day. Observing their diligence, Qiao Xian felt reassured and entrusted the farming affairs of An's province to them. It was imperative to cultivate the wastelands. Who could guarantee a steady supply of food, medicinal herbs, and cloth from external sources in the future? Self-sufficiency was the key here. Following her advice, Shao Yunduan had issued a decree: as long as the civilians reclaimed the land in Huaishi province within the next 2 years, they wouldn't have to pay a single ounce of tax for the following 5 years. This announcement ignited everyone's fervor. Not only An's province but neighboring counties as well, were swept up in a frenzy of activity. As long as there was willing labor at hand, as long as they weren't idle or lazy, the people set out to explore the wastelands one after another. Even if it meant scattering a handful of beans or planting peanuts, they made the most of every opportunity. Moreover, they discovered valuable resources like potatoes. Qiao Xian tasked the men with constructing roads and managing the warehouses and supplies. In the absence of Shao Yunduan and Jia Heming, Qiao Xian found herself with ample autonomy. She took advantage of this by stocking the warehouse with grains and herbs from her space. Her focus shifted to cultivating medicinal herbs and cotton on her land. Additionally, she expanded the ranch and set her sights on taming wild horses, recognizing their potential as valuable assets. Under the leadership of the Shao family's impressive reclamation efforts, An's province thrived with vitality. Both commoners and prominent families alike joined in the endeavor. It was common knowledge that accumulating more resources during this period only yielded benefits without drawbacks. Simultaneously, an increasing number of visitors frequented the state office, whether for greetings, visits to Qiao Xian, or to see Ms. Fang. However, Ms. Fang preferred caring for her grandchildren and engaging in occasional spats with the old man, so she grew weary of these visitors. Qiao Xian shared her sentiment. Upon hearing Ms. Fang's complaints, she decided to delegate the task to Li Xia. In the future, Li Xia could handle any non-urgent matters regarding visitors. Like Ms. Fang, Qiao Xian couldn't afford to squander her time on such matters. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2135, Ingratiating. Witnessing this, others hesitated to disturb the family any further. It sufficed to merely acknowledge their presence. Pushing too hard might risk becoming a nuisance to the family. This change was also a consequence of their internal expansion. Some families visited Qiao Xian daily to maintain favor, ensuring they didn't fall behind. Eventually, others followed suit. Qiao Xian, citing busyness, assigned Li Xia to handle these visits. Sensibly, visitors sent a calling card every few days instead of bothering her directly. Only Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue refrained from daily visits, opting for almost every other day instead. Though predominantly Bai Ruerue, sometimes Fan Ruyan appeared. Regardless, even a brief encounter with Li Xia in the reception hall satisfied their need to visit. Meeting anyone from the Shao family, regardless of who, filled them with joy. This behavior led to ridicule from other prominent families in An's prefecture city, who mocked the Fan family's apparent anxiety. This sentiment was particularly evident with the mother and daughter duo. Their past arrogance now seemed like a facade. Were they apprehensive of potential retaliation from Lord Shao and Madame Shao? Yet, if Lord Shao and Madame Shao truly harbored grudges and relished settling scores, the Fan family wouldn't have enjoyed such peace over the past 2 years. They would have suffered significant losses. It appeared this mother-daughter pair judged others based on their own standards. Had they foreseen this outcome, they wouldn't have acted so recklessly. Their current predicament was quite amusing to observe. However, the two elder masters of the Fan family weren't foolish. If the entire family lacked foresight, the Fan family's assets would have been in shambles long ago. How could they have risen to prominence as one of the 3 major families? So why did the two elder masters allow this mother and daughter to embarrass themselves? In reality, both the first Old Master Fan and the second Old Master Fan were troubled by the rumors circulating outside. They had cautioned Fan Ruyan multiple times and even sought intervention from Old Lady Fan. However, Old Lady Fan appeared to have been swayed by the mother and daughter. She insisted, "There's no need to fret. Ener and Ruerue have their own rationale for their actions. As for what others say, it's all just petty gossip. Pay them no mind." This only left Fan Ruyan more bewildered. How could they believe she was acting in the best interest of the Fan family? The two elder masters of the Fan family found themselves caught in a futile cycle, forced to abandon the issue. Their only desire was to sever ties. Fan Ruyan scorned them, refusing to take their words seriously. Instead, she reveled in feeling superior, as if she alone remained sober amidst a crowd of fools. They knew nothing. Lord Shao was destined to reign as king in the future. If he didn't stoke the flames now, when would he? As the saying goes, distance tests a horse's strength, and sincerity tests mettle. Regardless of past events, cozying up to powerful figures now could yield future benefits. He refused to believe that Madame Shao and the Shao family wouldn't be swayed by his family's influence. One day, they would see the value. In truth, Xiao Xian found them utterly vexing. This mother and daughter duo were more than just troublemakers, they were downright unlucky. If they hadn't caused a scene that night, if they hadn't exacerbated the situation with their careless words, things wouldn't have escalated to this extent. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2136. A headache. Shao Yunduan had fallen for their deception. It was already quite magnanimous of the Shao family not to retaliate against them, yet they persisted in their attempts to ingratiate themselves. But what good did it do to seek their favor every day? Xiao Xian couldn't bear the thought of encountering them again. Who knew what trouble they might stir up? Yet, the mother and daughter were so persistent that even Li Xia struggled to manage them, let alone Xiao Xian. Observing this, Xiao Xian instructed Li Xia to admit them if they returned. It was best to confront them directly and have them explain themselves. If they were genuinely concerned about reprisal, she could assure them that they needn't make the effort again. Just thinking about it gave her a headache. Upon receiving this directive, Li Xia eagerly acquiesced, seemingly relieved to have a resolution. Xiao Xian found herself torn between laughter and exasperation. It appeared that Li Xia had been deeply affected by the antics of the mother and daughter. On this particular day, when Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue paid another visit, Li Xia calmly informed them that Madame happened to be available and extended an invitation. The duo exchanged glances, their eyes shining with anticipation. Fan Ruyan offered a smile of praise to Xiao Xian. Li Xia returned the smile, though her mind was filled with question marks. She couldn't help but feel a little perplexed. Despite this great aunt of the Fan clan having clashed with Madame on numerous occasions in the past, those incidents were years old. Besides, the Fan clan had already suffered greatly as a consequence. Why were they still so apprehensive? Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue followed Li Xia into the room and respectfully greeted Xiao Xian. Greetings, Madame Shao. Xiao Xian regarded them with a mixture of emotions, her impression of the mother and daughter unchanged. After settling them and offering tea through a maid, Xiao Xian turned to Bai Ruerue, inquiring, Mrs. Bai, are you facing any difficulties? Lord Shao treats all his subjects with fairness and equality. If the Fan family encounters any obstacles, please inform us, and Lord Shao will address them impartially. Justice must prevail. Fan Ruyan ingratiatingly replied, absolutely, absolutely. Lord Shao is a righteous official who cares for his people as his own children. If you encounter any hardships, he will certainly extend his assistance. Wasn't this true? Xiao Xian arched an eyebrow slightly. She had extended an olive branch to Fan Ruyan. If Fan Ruyan failed to seize the opportunity, Xiao Xian wouldn't beg her. That's reassuring. With everyone engrossed in their affairs, I'm certain your family is also occupied. In the future, there's no need for you to trouble yourselves with regular greetings. If you're concerned about past events causing issues, rest assured. Lord Shao is not the type to hold grudges. Neither is the Shao family. The past is behind us. It's more crucial to focus on the future, wouldn't you agree, Mrs. Bai? Yes, indeed, Madame Shao is absolutely correct. Fan Ruyan smiled even wider, nodding fervently. She used to exhibit such arrogance in Xiao Xian's presence, yet now she displayed such humility, leaving Xiao Xian feeling distinctly uneasy. Speechless, Xiao Xian wondered if it had been necessary for Fan Ruyan to go to such lengths. Truly, it seemed excessive. But judging by the current situation, perhaps Fan Ruyan had finally grasped the situation, right? Xiao Xian maintained her smile. In that case, I won't detain you any longer. Mrs. Bai, please take your leave. With a sigh, she added, times are challenging. There's a saying that misfortune comes from the mouth. Regardless of who it is, one must mind their words carefully. Wouldn't you agree, Mrs. Bai? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2137. This mother and daughter are simply calamities. Yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. Fan Rian smiled and nodded enthusiastically. But despite the challenges, there are also opportunities. Lord Shao will ultimately prevail. No one can match Lord Shao's path to prosperity. Xiao Xian was rendered speechless. This blatant flattery was rather unsubtle. It was evident that Fan Rian was attempting to ingratiate herself. However, Xiao Xian was livid. This flattery bordered on insolence. Her husband had already been deceived by this mother and daughter once. Was he going to fall for their tricks again? Very well, Mrs. Bai, Xiao Xian interjected with a cold tone. She lifted her gaze, speaking icily. Mrs. Bai, refrain from making such comments in the future. This world is fraught with challenges, and many suffer greatly. What benefits are you speaking of? Mrs. Bai, do you have no compassion? My husband has never viewed this as a fortunate path. Where did you hear such nonsense, Mrs. Bai? My husband wouldn't have pursued this course if he hadn't been betrayed by a traitor. I have no patience for this. Mrs. Bai, do you truly understand our Lord? If not, refrain from speaking out of turn. If I hear such words from you again, Mrs. Bai, don't blame me for being blunt. Xiao Xian's anger only intensified. This mother and daughter were nothing but trouble. Listening to their words, what would become of Shao Yunduan if such sentiment spread? I didn't mean anything else. Fan Rian stammered in panic, wanting desperately to explain. I was only praising Lord Shao. Lord Shao must be blessed. Enough. Xiao Xian's anger flared. Fan Rian's face flushed with embarrassment. Madam Shao, please don't be angry. I swear to God, I truly support Lord, I said. Enough. Xiao Xian's voice was icy. Mrs. Bai, let's not mince words. Can you refrain from speaking once you leave this room? Otherwise, I'll personally teach you how to keep quiet. Fan Rian opened her mouth but was too terrified to utter a sound. Yet, she felt an overwhelming sense of frustration, as if she might erupt in anger. She couldn't express it. While she believed Lord Shao had a promising future and could potentially rule the world, she dared not voice her thoughts. Doing so would only exacerbate Madame Shao's fury. After all, Lord Shao hadn't yet declared his intentions to establish a new power base. Fan Rian felt a pang of regret. She shouldn't have acted so hastily. She should have waited until the situation was clearer. However, at that time, these words would not be new. What was the use of her saying them? At that time, she wouldn't be the only one who would say something like that. She wouldn't be the only one. Lord Shao wouldn't look at her differently. Madame Shao was too hard to please. Such auspicious words would have made anyone else burst with joy, but Madame Shao got angry instead. This situation had become incredibly challenging to navigate. Bai Ruerue felt a surge of fear. Initially, she had been so optimistic, but who would have anticipated such a harsh rebuke? Madame Shao, you're absolutely right. Madame Shao, please don't worry. My daughter won't utter another word out of line. I greatly admire you, Madame Shao. I implore you to accept my daughter into your service. I am willing to serve you as well. I simply wish to learn from you. Fan Rian was momentarily stunned before hastily agreeing. Yes, yes. Madame Shao, please grant my daughter's request and allow her to serve you. I have no knowledge to impart, so I haven't hindered her. It would be a blessing for her to learn from you, Madame Shao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2138. To stay at Shao family. That seemed like a promising plan. Fan Rian believed that as long as she could remain within the Shao family, she stood a chance. She recognized that gaining Madame Shao's approval was essential to staying close to Lord Shao. It seemed nearly impossible to bypass Madame Shao. While she had contemplated ingratiating herself with Miss Fong, her mother-in-law, she found it even more challenging. Miss Fong differed from Madame Lady Chiao in that she wasn't one to meddle in others' affairs or be easily swayed by flattery. Despite her age, she remained astute and resilient. Winning her favor proved to be no easy feat. Moreover, the prospect of entertaining more guests seemed unappealing to Miss Fong. She placed such immense trust in Xiao Xian that she allowed her to make all the decisions. With her husband and mother-in-law firmly in her corner, others found themselves at a loss. For this reason, Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue abandoned the notion of circumventing Xiao Xian. It became evident that this path held no promise, it was simply unattainable. Furthermore, Xiao Xian had already given birth to her eldest son. Unless they could replace her, their only option was to defer to her and seek her favor. While this outcome wasn't entirely satisfactory, they reasoned that given Xiao Yunduan's future as emperor, aligning with Xiao Xian could elevate their status. It was a compromise they were willing to make. How could this not be an improvement over marrying into an ordinary family? Furthermore, who could predict the future? Anything was possible within the harem. Success didn't necessarily require being the legitimate empress. Just look at the previous emperor's consort. She wasn't particularly exceptional. Contrastingly, the third prince, born of the empress, ultimately couldn't compete with the fourth prince and was banished from the capital, finding refuge in Jiangning. Thus, what value did temporary status and victories hold? There was still a long road ahead. Of course, these thoughts had to be kept deeply hidden, especially in Madame Shao's presence. For now, they had to treat Madame Shao as the rightful mistress of the household. More haste, less speed. This was a lesson Bai Ruerue and Fan Ruyan had learned over the past 2 years. With this in mind, Bai Ruerue had an idea and pleaded to stay by Xiao Xian's side and serve her faithfully. Fan Ruyan was momentarily taken aback before quickly regaining her composure. She hastily smiled and implored, "Yes, yes, yes, Madame Shao, I'm inept and often misspeak, causing you distress. But please, Madame Shao, believe me, I harbor no ill intentions. I beseech Madame Shao to be merciful and allow Ruerue to remain in your service. She will serve you dutifully. If she can earn your favor and learn from you, it would be her greatest fortune." Xiao Xian found herself utterly perplexed by the mother-daughter duo. She harbored no trust in their professed loyalty and sincerity. Yet, what were their intentions? What were they seeking? Was her husband truly so esteemed? Did the Fan family possess such confidence in his capabilities and hold his future in such high regard? Had the matter of setting the stove ablaze already progressed to this extent? Xiao Xian cast a scrutinizing glance at them and offered a smile. "Very well, Mrs. Bai and Miss Bai, please take your leave. I'll reiterate once more, when trouble arises from loose lips, it's too late for regrets. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 2139, Rejection. It would be impossible for me to retain Miss Bai. Otherwise, wouldn't it give rise to gossip? Xiao Xian stated firmly. Fan Ruyan hastily interjected, "Ah, I understand, I understand. It's just envy from others. How could we not encounter such despicable individuals? Madame Shao, please pay them no mind. Their opinions hold no weight." Xiao Xian was rendered speechless. "Impressive, I must say, your creativity knows no bounds." "Very well," Xiao Xian sighed, wearing a wry smile. "There's a delicate matter I must address. 2 years ago, there were some unsavory rumors circulating. If I were to retain Miss Bai, what would be said of me and my husband? Mrs. Bai, do you truly believe I would jeopardize my husband's reputation in such a manner?" Fan Ruyan was taken aback. Bai Ruiru's eyes widened in shock. How could this be? Even if Xiao Xian expressed concern for reputation, it should have been for her own. Why mention Lord Shao? Had it been about herself, she could have dismissed it, proclaiming her innocence and asserting that it was inconsequential. But Xiao Xian's reference to Shao Yunduan meant she couldn't simply brush it aside. Xiao Xian's tone turned cold. Mrs. Bai, escort Miss Bai home and ensure she receives proper guidance. If you wish, arrange for someone suitable to oversee her education. My schedule has been quite demanding as of late, and the affairs of the state office are sensitive. It would not be prudent for outsiders to become too closely associated with you. Otherwise, it may arouse suspicion of ulterior motives. If misunderstandings were to arise, it wouldn't bode well for anyone. Do you understand? Xiao Xian reiterated firmly. Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruiruo's expressions soured, seething with hidden anger. They had believed Lord Shao and Madame Shao to be magnanimous. Despite the painful lesson the Fan family endured, they hadn't faced any retaliatory actions thereafter. But now, it seemed that only Lord Shao possessed such generosity. Was Madame Shao still harboring resentment toward their family? Why else would she remain unwilling to extend forgiveness? Despite their flattery, she refused to relent. Shouldn't she acknowledge their overtures? They were already offering their service willingly, yet she remained unsatisfied? Not only was she dissatisfied, but she also issued threats. Fan Rian felt as if she might suffer a heart attack. Madame Shao, do you still harbor ill will toward us? We may have been foolish in the past, but now we genuinely seek redemption. Can't you grant us a chance? She pleaded desperately. Li Xia frowned, her tone growing stern. Mrs. Bai, do you not comprehend my wife's intentions? If she held any grudge, you wouldn't be sitting here unscathed. While my wife is magnanimous, she won't allow herself to be taken advantage of. To be frank, our madam is occupied with numerous responsibilities and cannot spare the time to oversee your daughter's education. It's simply not feasible for our madam to accommodate someone unfamiliar to her inner circle. Should any unforeseen circumstances arise, the repercussions could be dire. While you may not be concerned, our madam cannot afford to entertain any further considerations, Li Xia asserted firmly. Xiao Xian nodded in agreement, her expression conveying approval toward Lixia's words. She had already extended considerable courtesy to this mother-daughter pair. If they persisted in their demands, she might be compelled to adopt a more forceful approach. Fan Ruyan could no longer feign ignorance. She forced a smile and uttered, "It's all a misunderstanding, truly. We are not those sorts of individuals. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 2140, Going to the province. The mother and daughter departed with heavy hearts. Mother, what should we do? Bai Ruerue fretted, her frustration palpable. It felt like standing before a mountain of gold, knowing that crossing it would yield profit, yet they couldn't bring themselves to take the step. Who would willingly let go of such an opportunity? Initially, they believed this to be the safest course of action, but it seemed their expectations had been misplaced. Nevertheless, could they afford to abandon their efforts? They had awaited this moment with fervor. Xiao Xian's warnings bore the weight of imminent repercussions. Fan Rian dared not bring her daughter back here, lest she be accused of harboring ulterior motives. Let's journey to the provincial capital, Fan Rian proposed, determination etched in her voice. We'll assess the situation there first. I refuse to believe this to be an impenetrable barrier. Although Lord Shao had spurned them previously, circumstances might have evolved. With his newfound power, surely his disposition had shifted? He was only human, after all. How could he resist the allure of companionship? Without it, life would be dreadfully mundane. Bai Ruerue shuddered at the thought of Xiao Xian's wrath. I fear invoking Madame Shao's anger, Fan Rian smiled wryly. That's precisely why you must exert yourself. Once you've captured Lord Shao's affections, what can Madame Shao possibly do? Shouldn't Lord Shao be entitled to a companion of his own? A woman consumed by jealousy holds no sway over us. Bai Ruerue mulled over her mother's words, enticed by the promise of a brighter future. With a shy nod, she concurred, "Mother speaks wisely. It's true. If Lord Shao favored her, he would safeguard her. In that scenario, Madame Shao would pose no threat. As the scion of a distinguished lineage, she wasn't born into penury. Were Madame Shao to entertain any thoughts of harm, other affluent families would express their dismay. Lord Shao wouldn't allow such injustice to befall her. Unaware of the mother-daughter duo's intentions, Qiao Xian dispatched someone to monitor their movements. Within 2 days, word arrived that Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue, accompanied by a retinue of servants, had discreetly departed An's prefecture city. Their trajectory suggested they were en route to the provincial capital. Qiao Xian required little deduction to discern their motives. Mere days ago, they had showered her with flattery, expressing a desire to serve her. Yet, rebuffed, they promptly set off for the provincial capital. Was Bai Ruerue out of her mind? 2 years prior, she had caused an uproar by aggressively pursuing her husband. And now, signs of her scheming were resurfacing. Was her husband truly that captivating? Qiao Xian doubted it. She leaned toward the latter possibility. Bai Ruerue likely harbored ulterior motives. With a cold smile, Qiao Xian penned a letter to Shao Yunduan, alerting him to the abnormal behavior of the Fan family. Despite their attempts to ingratiate themselves with her, their efforts were rebuffed, prompting the mother-daughter pair to decamp to the provincial capital. Their intentions remained unclear. Under Shao Yunduan's stewardship, Huaishi province had been governed efficiently. However, the specter of hidden agendas loomed large. Prefect Lu, once considered ineffectual, had amassed considerable influence over the years. It was improbable that the Fan clan remained untouched by such machinations. Could old Lady Fan truly possess such a temperament and acumen? Qiao Xian harbored doubts. Their family had a criminal record, and Shao Yunduan had ruined their foundation and severely injured their vitality. It was hard to guarantee that they would not hate him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2141. Reminder: it was highly suspicious that Fan Ruyan and her mother sought proximity to Qiao Xian before abruptly departing for the province. Qiao Xian's letter implied that Shao Yunduan would never entertain Bai Ruerue's advances. Despite her beauty, any association with dubious elements posed a latent threat, making her an unacceptable proposition. Shao Yunduan's devotion to Qiao Xian transcended superficial allure. Even if he were as susceptible as any man of his era, he wouldn't compromise his safety for fleeting beauty. Qiao Xian couldn't leave An's presently, but the antics of Fan Ruyan and her mother necessitated attention to an issue she deemed unnecessary. She had anticipated confronting various individuals eyeing her husband's influence, but it seemed the challenge had presented itself sooner than expected. As the proverb goes, fortune favors the bold. Qiao Xian recognized the opportunity before her and resolved to seize it amidst looming danger. Qiao Xian pondered the potential outcomes. If they gambled correctly, they could ascend to the echelons of power, becoming relatives of the emperor. Even if they weren't favored, Bai Ruerue could secure a position as a lesser concubine. Through shared trials and tribulations, their bond would naturally deepen, and the family clan would reap substantial benefits. On the other hand, if they erred in their calculation, they would only lose a daughter. They could deflect blame onto Shao Yunduan, claiming he coerced her departure, shielding themselves from repercussions. In essence, the risk was minimal, and they were confident Shao Yunduan would acquiesce, if only to pacify them. After all, familial ties were paramount, providing solace and security, albeit vulnerable when tested by self-interest. Qiao Xian massaged her temples, unfazed by Shao Yunduan's potential response. Qiao Xian recognized the need to address potential threats discreetly. While she typically avoided jealousy, she understood the necessity of caution. With plans to visit the province looming, she felt compelled to caution Miss Fang and the others against potential deception. Despite Fan Ruyan and her mother's failed attempts to curry favor, others might pose a more credible threat. Delicately, Qiao Xian reminded Ms. Fang of these concerns. Ms. Fang bristled at the suggestion, asserting her capability to safeguard the family. Confident in her rapport with Tao Tao, she vowed to remain vigilant against any potential schemes. Aware of Tao Tao's loyalty and the support of Aunt Qing, she reassured Xiao Xian of their preparedness. Xiao Xian found comfort in Ms. Fang's assurance and returned a smile. "Your words reassure me greatly." Ms. Fang reciprocated the smile warmly. Wulong has always been steadfast. He's not one to easily change his mind. Having a daughter-in-law like you brings me great joy. We don't need to emulate the strife of other households. By avoiding conflict, we can live harmoniously and prosperously. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2142, Moral Kidnapping is the most annoying. I've quarreled with the second section of the family and the third section for so many years. I don't want our family to quarrel again in the future. This is very good. It's not just Wulong. Boss, third brother, and the future Qi are all the same. Isn't it enough to have a proper daughter-in-law? If Wulong betrays you, I won't let him off. Xiao Xian was deeply moved by Miss Fang's words. Thank you, Mother, for your unwavering support. I also trust in my husband's integrity. However, as I prepare to depart for the provincial city, I can't help but worry about the affairs here. If those family clans extend invitations or seek your presence at banquets, feel free to accept or decline as you wish. There's no need to fear or feel obliged. And if someone tries to manipulate you under the guise of politeness, don't hesitate to stand your ground and maintain your dignity. Soft knives and moral blackmail were the most annoying. In a head-on confrontation, there was nothing to worry about. If you didn't agree, you would be cold and heartless. If you didn't have any sympathy and watched others die, you would be the most annoying. Miss Fang was annoyed by what Xiao Xian said as well. She nodded. Don't worry, I know what to do. Your second aunt-in-law and third aunt-in-law like this, so annoying. Xiao Xian chuckled, feeling relieved. She was well aware of how formidable her mother-in-law could be when faced with people like Ms. Niu and Ms. Ma. If anyone dared to provoke Ms. Fang in a similar manner, they would undoubtedly regret it. Mother, don't let them get to you. They're not worth your time and energy, Xiao Xian reassured. Ms. Fang laughed heartily in agreement. You're absolutely right. With more than half of the roads repaired, Xiao Xian bid farewell to Miss Fang and embarked on the journey to the provincial city with Anan. Miss Fang could easily visit both the province and An's province in a single day if she missed her grandson. Though she longed to visit Shao Yunduan, she hesitated to bring any inconvenience to him. So, she simply instructed Xiao Xian to inform her if Shao Yunduan had any free time. Xiao Xian understood his sentiment and nodded in agreement. Shao Yunduan must be preoccupied with his responsibilities and wouldn't be able to return to An's province soon. However, knowing he was nearby already brought her a sense of comfort, knowing he could return whenever needed. Shao Yunduan was overjoyed when Xiao Xian and their child arrived at the provincial city. Absence had indeed intensified their bond. Reunited, they found solace in each other's arms, relishing the profound affection that united them. Shao Yunduan had eagerly awaited his wife's arrival, longing for her presence to ease his fatigue. He yearned to have her by his side, finding solace in her embrace. The following day, Shao Yunduan made time to accompany Xiao Xian as they toured the mansion's grounds and met with the servants. With most of Prefect Liu's staff no longer present at the intermediate office, they had transferred over several servants from An's province, leaving only a handful acquired at the last minute. There were not many people, only 12 in total. This was extremely rare for such a huge mansion. Xiao Xian brought 10 more people with her, including Anan's servants. It was still a little too little. Later, she would pick it from the human broker's hand and slowly replenish it. Shao Yunduan let out a sigh of relief. As long as she was here, he would not have to worry about anything. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2143, Old Trade, Exploration. Xiao Xian arrived in Huaishi province accompanied by Mianmian, Li Xia, and Songshi, while Lu Fu and Tao Tao remained sufficient for their needs in An's province. Once settled, Songshur wasted no time in leading his team out of the city, resuming their familiar pursuit, exploration. Spanning across the vast expanse of Huaishi, exploration was paramount for logistical assurance. For Qiao Xian, unlocking and cultivating new lands meant ensuring bountiful harvests. Had it not been for their desire to avoid undue attention and astonishment, their yields wouldn't just be ample but staggering, enough to defy belief. Thus, Qiao Xian wasted no time in dispatching Songshur to locate suitable territories upon their arrival in the province. Enthusiastic and invigorated by his new venture, Songshur embraced his role with zeal, leading his team personally in their quest. Qiao Xian had already formulated her plan, to tap into underground springs within the flatlands. With a secure water source, transforming the terrain into fertile grounds became a viable prospect. Expanding into arid expanses, they could procure fruit-bearing trees from Yuzhang, introducing varieties such as longan, lychee, mango, mangosteen, pineapple, banana, dragon fruit, and more, for both domestic consumption and exportation. Indeed, the cultivation of these fruit trees was unprecedented in the region. Regardless of the abundance of sugarcane, it remained a lucrative commodity exchangeable for currency. Cotton, with its promising future demand, held significance as a key material. Furthermore, increased production of silver fungus, mushrooms, tea tree mushrooms, wood fungus, and similar goods could generate substantial revenue. This initiative wasn't limited to the province's periphery. Expansion into other counties was viable, emphasizing the necessity for large-scale operations. Qiao Xian shared her vision with Shao Yunduan, who wholeheartedly endorsed it, deeply moved by his wife's unwavering dedication to their shared prosperity. His gratitude overflowed, strengthening his love for her. In her presence, his affection knew no bounds, his heart longing to be hers completely. To facilitate her endeavors, Shao Yunduan appointed 2 scribes to heed Qiao Xian's directives and manage logistical affairs. Recognizing his wife as more than a mere homemaker, Shao Yunduan affirmed her rightful place by his side, deserving of admiration and respect, embodying virtues beyond domesticity. Qiao Xian's acceptance of the responsibility was met with genuine enthusiasm. "Why not?" she responded, her confidence unwavering. In An's province, Madame Shao's capabilities were widely acknowledged, earning unanimous approval. While some officials within the magistrate's office harbored reservations, adhering to traditional gender roles dictating women's confinement to domestic affairs, the prevailing sentiment didn't deter Madame Shao's assent. For the public servants, the notion of a woman assuming authoritative roles within governmental affairs seemed preposterous. Yet, they dared not voice dissent openly, resorting instead to private grumblings and veiled mockery. However, neither Qiao Xian nor Shao Yunduan paid heed to such murmurs, their focus unwavering in the face of skepticism. Under Song's meticulous oversight, and with Qiao Xian's active involvement, plans were set into motion. Within days of their arrival in the provincial capital, invitations were dispatched to the esteemed wives of local elite families and key officials, summoning them to a banquet. The purpose was twofold: to forge alliances and gauge their perspectives and values, and to assuage any lingering doubts or concerns among the populace. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2144, Opening the Situation. The esteemed guests, including both madams and young ladies, attended the banquet with evident enthusiasm. For Qiao Xian, the occasion presented an opportunity to assess and scrutinize each attendee, a sentiment shared by all present. Nobody wished to miss out on such a significant gathering. Qiao Xian's adeptness at social interaction put everyone at ease, fostering an atmosphere of conviviality. Lord Shao's competence and charisma, complemented by Madame Shao's own charm, boded well for both Huaishi and the familial clans. However, Qiao Xian was taken aback to find Fan Ruyan and Bai Ruerue among the guests. The presence of the Fan family, with relatives in the provincial capital, explained their attendance. Fan Ruyan's thinly veiled attempt to flaunt her supposed special relationship with Qiao Xian irked the latter deeply, eliciting a sense of disdain. It appeared that her husband remained vigilant, as neither mother nor daughter found an opportunity to draw near him. Yet, their persistence in pestering Qiao Xian was relentless. Tolerating their presence now was akin to displaying them to others, providing them with a false sense of comfort. In the past, Xiao Xian would not have entertained them to this extent. She would have addressed the situation more firmly. However, Xiao Xian had her limits. If pushed further, she would not hesitate to draw the line. In response to Fan Ruiyan's demeanor, Xiao Xian maintained a polite yet distant demeanor, neither endorsing nor indulging her. She treated the relationship between their families as ordinary, devoid of any special significance. There was no closeness between them, nor any underlying conflicts. That was the extent of their connection. Observing Xiao Xian's composed response, the other madams exchanged knowing glances. They were astute enough to read between the lines. Despite hailing from the same province as Madame Shao, Fan Ruiyan's exclusion from the guest list spoke volumes. Madame Shao's discernible warmth towards others contrasted sharply with her apparent detachment from Mrs. Bai. Such initial impressions mattered greatly, they offered insights into one's character. And Madame Shao's amiable disposition left a favorable impression on the gathered guests. However, the palpable distance between Madame Shao and Mrs. Bai intrigued many, sparking curiosity. Upon returning home, they would undoubtedly seek to uncover the reasons behind Madame Shao's apparent aversion, hoping to glean valuable lessons from the situation. As the guests observed Mrs. Bai and her daughter, an unspoken consensus seemed to emerge, a subtle shift in perception, casting doubt on their worthiness of companionship. If Fan Ruiyan were to discover that her efforts had not only failed to bridge the gap but had instead fueled disdain, the blow to her pride would likely be unbearable. Yet, she found herself powerless to alter the situation. Their prolonged stay in the province had yielded no access to the corridors of power nor any audience with Shao Yunduan, leaving them in a state of impotence. While Xiao Xian harbored no fondness for them, Fan Ruiyan perceived their encounter as a reunion with an old friend in unfamiliar territory. She presumed Madame Shao might require her assistance, fostering a false sense of closeness. But Xiao Xian's steadfast resistance caught them off guard. Bai Ruerue, too, sensed impending defeat. With each passing day, Shao Yunduan's influence only grew stronger. How could they remain so vigilant in the face of their dwindling prospects? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2145. Another plan. Shao Yunduan's estimation of them would undoubtedly plummet if they failed to demonstrate astuteness. Following the banquet, the mother and daughter sank deeper into despondency and anxiety. The tantalizing prospect of untold riches lay before them like a glistening mountain of gold, visible only to their eyes. Yet, it remained frustratingly out of reach, taunting them with its unattainable allure. "Mother, what do we do now? What do we do?" Bai Ruirua's distress was palpable, her agitation evident in her sleepless nights and dwindling appetite, her once plump figure now noticeably diminished. Such concerns for one's future and glory were enough to unsettle even the most composed. Gritting her teeth, Fan Ruiyan considered their options. "Why don't we resort to our old tactics?" Her voice trailed off with resignation. However, their previous methods held little promise. Shao Yunduan remained impervious to their overtures, and Madame Shao's newfound influence rendered their usual schemes futile. Bai Ruerue, grasping for a solution, suggested a different approach. "Mother, why don't we appeal to Madame Shao directly? Shao Yunduan's status has evolved, and he will inevitably seek alliances with influential families. Our Fan family holds significance, it's in his interest to bring us into his fold. I pledge my allegiance to him and support Madame Shao in any endeavor. She would have no reason to refuse." Fan Ruiyan's eyes sparkled with hope at the suggestion, recognizing its potential. However, a shadow of doubt lingered. While appealing to Madame Shao directly is indeed a viable option, we must tread carefully. Let's not forget, Madame Shao is possessive of Lord Shao, she won't tolerate anyone encroaching upon their relationship. No prominent family has yet proposed a marriage alliance with Lord Shao, indicating her reluctance to entertain such propositions. If she rejects our proposal, our chances will dwindle to nothing. Perhaps we should bide our time. When a newcomer threatens her position, we can offer our allegiance willingly. That way, shall be more inclined to accept us gratefully. Bairuirua's agreement was genuine, her smile reflecting her earnestness. Mother, your strategy is sound. We just need to discern the right moment. Time was of the essence. With each passing year, their prospects dwindled. Bairuirua's youth and beauty were fleeting assets, and waiting too long risked squandering her prime years, leaving her at a disadvantage against younger rivals. Fan Ruyan shared her daughter's concerns, her gaze flickering with determination. It's not difficult. These prominent families simply haven't considered our approach yet. When they do, competition will be fierce. But until then, let them remain oblivious. Despite the diminished status of the Fan family, their influence still loomed large. Fan Ruyan saw no need to exert herself unnecessarily. With existing connections and alliances within the province, sowing discord would be effortless. Time was of the essence. They needed to light the cold stove before others beat them to it. Once the idea crossed someone's mind, action would surely follow. As Lord Shao endeavored to garner support and foster goodwill, Madame Shao would undoubtedly welcome overtures from prominent families. Fan Ruyan harbored no concerns about her urgency in this matter. The prospect brought a glimmer of satisfaction to Fan Ruyan's thoughts. Even if Madame Shao rejected Bairuirua's proposal, she would still be obliged to maintain her virtuous and gracious demeanor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2146. Late anger. As Bairuirua heard her mother's reassuring words, she couldn't contain her joy. She embraced Fan Ruyan's arm tightly, rubbing against her affectionately. Mother, you're brilliant. I knew you'd come up with something. Fan Ruyan smirked, lightly patting her daughter's hand. Just wait and watch. We'll see results soon enough. Meanwhile, Sun Pu, Prefect Lu, and their cohorts trembled with fear as they faced Shao Yunduan's wrath. Prefect Lu, in particular, was terrified. Shao Yunduan likely discerned the Sun family's machinations against him. Retaliation could mean his demise. Yet, to their astonishment, Shao Yunduan didn't spill blood. Instead, he expelled them all. In truth, Shao Yunduan's actions were unnecessary. Once freed, they wished they had extra legs to escape faster, almost disowning their families in the process. Prefect Lu was ready to forsake everything, including his amassed wealth. The group of several hundred individuals pressed on relentlessly, traveling day and night for 3 days until they finally reached Ning City's main camp. Here, they breathed a collective sigh of relief. They were safe at last. Yet, even in their safety, Sun Pu and Prefect Lu found themselves consumed by anger once more. Recalling the humiliation of being driven out by Shao Yunduan, their indignation flared anew. The humiliation was unbearable. For Sun Pu, a scion of the Sun family and a relative of the emperor, his exalted status had shielded him from such indignities. Accustomed to adulation from a young age, he had never experienced such disgrace. Nearly losing his life was unthinkable. Who was Shao Yunduan to dare treat him with such contempt? At this moment, he did not think that Shao Yunduan was letting him leave the province because he believed Shao Yunduan wouldn't dare to kill him. Sun Pu's indignation mingled with a hint of pride. The Sun family's reputation and his connection to the emperor supposedly shielded him from such dire consequences. But the audacity of Shao Yunduan's rebellion against established authority ignited Sun Pu's fury to new heights. Scolding Shao Yunduan offered only temporary relief. Sun Pu redirected his frustration towards Prefect Lu, venting his rage at the incompetence displayed by someone under his supervision. Prefect Lu, meanwhile, was plunged into a despair so profound it bordered on physical illness. How could he have foreseen Shao Yunduan's audacious move, especially after his expulsion from the capital? Sent to An's province, an impoverished region rife with banditry, Shao Yunduan seemed inconsequential. But now, his actions had upended their lives in unexpected ways. Upon hearing that Shao Yunduan openly challenged the bandits and intended to eradicate them, Sun Pu burst into uproarious laughter, nearly spilling his tea in the process. He exchanged jests with the Grandmaster, amused by the audacity of a scholar, once immersed in books, now daring to confront danger head-on. Little did Sun Pu anticipate Shao Yunduan's success. Even more surprising was Shao Yunduan's ulterior motive for venturing to An's province. Not only did he manage to quell the bandits, but he also cunningly enlisted them into service, assuming the role of a bailiff in the government office. In hindsight, Sun Pu regretted not taking Shao Yunduan's actions more seriously. He should have recognized the signs of rebellion when Shao Yunduan suppressed the bandits. He should have heeded the warning when Shao Yunduan refused to pay taxes. But alas, he missed every opportunity to thwart Shao Yunduan's ambitions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2147, Revenge in the End. Prefect Lu discarded his armor and fled, leaving behind a vast fortune accumulated over the years. Silver, gold, jewelry, antiques, precious calligraphy, paintings, exquisite rosewood furniture, top-quality silk and satin, all left behind in his haste. The pain in his heart was palpable as he realized the extent of his losses. Prefect Lu wept bitterly, consumed by regret and self-directed scorn for his own foolishness. But Shao Yunduan, ever the cunning strategist, had long harbored ambitions of rebellion. He meticulously concealed his intentions, leaving Prefect Lu in the dark and vulnerable to his machinations. Prefect Liu's anger abated somewhat, replaced by a seething hatred towards Shao Yunduan. The desire for vengeance burned within him, compelling him to seek retribution. Who does he think he is, daring to rebel? Look at him. If he hadn't been caught off guard, how could he have fallen to a mere scholar? Sun Pu seethed with indignation, his anger driving him to immediate action. Mobilizing his troops, he assembled a formidable force of 20,000 soldiers, intent on reclaiming his lost honor in the city of Huaishi province. He couldn't allow himself to remain disgraced, especially as the son of General Sunday. Furthermore, the emperor's cousin had entrusted him with the task of pacifying and reclaiming this territory. He had pledged his word and his honor to fulfill this duty. Sun Pu was determined to conquer Huaishi province, no matter the cost. Unexpectedly, the heavens opened up, unleashing a torrential downpour upon the land. Rain cascaded down like a celestial river overflowing its banks, transforming the earth into a vast sea. Such inclement weather rendered marching impossible. Even if provisions were available, navigating the treacherous roads would prove arduous. Potholes and mud littered the terrain, transforming the once formidable army into bedraggled, mud-soaked soldiers. For Sun Pu, there was no choice but to wait patiently, as the rain showed no signs of relenting. This wait lasted for 7 to 8 days. Sun Pu was furious. Even the heavens were going against him. Despite the setbacks caused by the rain, Sun Pu remained resolute in his original plan to swiftly attack Huaishi province's city and catch them off guard. Yet, his intentions were thwarted when the enemy set a trap for him. Although his forces quickly regained their composure, they suffered losses of 200 to 300 men. The sense of grievance among them only intensified. Exposed during their failed assault on the city, they now had no option but to face prepared defenses head-on. Sun Pu resolved to organize his forces into a formation and launch a frontal assault. With 10,000 men at his command, he felt confident in his numerical superiority over Shao Yunduan's purportedly smaller force. Yet, Sun Pu underestimated the strength of his adversaries, including Zheng Sang, Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and others, who stood firmly in defense of Huaishi province. Their combined might posed a formidable obstacle to Sun Pu's ambitions. Sun Pu's frustration reached its peak when Sun Bai refused to engage in direct combat, instead retreating to the safety of the city walls. Despite Sun Pu's furious orders to attack, his forces gained no ground against the fortified defenses. Desperate for a breakthrough, Sun Pu resorted to daily attempts to goad Shao Yunduan's forces into battle through scolding and humiliation. But the defenders remained steadfast, refusing to take the bait. Frustrated and at his wits' end, Sun Pu's situation worsened when Shao Yunduan's forces launched a surprise ambush one night. 1,000 elite soldiers descended upon Sun Pu's camp, intent on eliminating him and ending his feudal campaign. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2148, defeated. If not for the vast difference in military might between the opposing forces, Sun Pu's entire army might have faced annihilation. Yet, caught off guard by the suddenness of the attack amidst the veil of night, Sun Pu's military encampment lay entrenched in deep slumber. Ill-prepared, they suffered staggering losses from the onset. Though night patrols and sentries were in place, veterans like Jing Sang and Wu Guan, despite their decade-long absence from the battlefield, boasted a wealth of experience from countless skirmishes in the northwest. Their adversaries, the formidable Beihu people and the nomadic tribes of the grasslands, possessed a ferocity Sun Pu could hardly match. Despite numerical and martial imbalances, dispatching Sun Pu proved as effortless as slicing through ripe melons. Silently, sentry posts fell one by one, their destruction meticulously timed against the patrol's movements. Before the patrols could react, a legion of 1,000 elite soldiers breached the encampment's defenses. Amidst the chaos, flames licked the night sky, mingling with the cacophony of shouts and the thundering hooves of panicked steeds. Sun Pu's forces were thrown into disarray, resembling headless insects, scrambling to evade the relentless assault. The stampede to flee mirrored a swarm of panicked insects following a leader, a frenzy of pushing and trampling, punctuated by cries and screams echoing in the darkness. Upon hearing this, the fear clutching his heart tightened its grip, propelling him into an even more frantic flight. Thus, Sun Pu's formidable force of 10,000 men found themselves reduced to a pitiable state at the hands of a mere 1,000 elite soldiers, fleeing for hundreds of miles under the cover of darkness. Unaware that they were pursued by only a fraction of their assumed numbers, Sun Pu presumed a force 6 or 7 times larger hot on their heels. With the break of dawn, Jing Sang and Wu Guan ordered their men to halt pursuit, affording Sun Pu's remnants a moment's respite. Even in their surprise assault, 1,000 against 10,000, it was implausible to completely overwhelm the opposition. Once Sun Pu's forces realized the true scale of their pursuers, fortune would favor the undermanned. Furthermore, Shao Yunduan harbored no desire for enmity with the second prince or his forces. Sun Pu's aggression only served to underscore Shao Yunduan's reluctant resistance, a circumstance not of his choosing but thrust upon him, and likewise, his soldiers. Hence, the second prince found himself unable to reproach such a retaliatory strike. However, total annihilation of Sun Pu and his forces would undoubtedly provoke further conflict. Even if it meant reclaiming lost honor, the second prince would undoubtedly dispatch his troops for retribution. Shao Yunduan was acutely aware of the stakes and his actions. Even in defeat, Sun Pu had none to blame but himself. In the aftermath of the battle, Sun Pu's ranks were decimated, with 7,000 souls lost upon regrouping his troops. Most heartbreaking was that many of these casualties were inflicted by their own comrades in the ensuing chaos. Sun Pu seethed with fury, vowing vengeance against Shao Yunduan to his very core, swearing to reclaim his dignity as General Sun's son. Yet, with a mere 3,000 survivors at his disposal, immediate reprisal was out of reach. Sun Pu had no choice but to seek aid. Too humiliated to lead his defeated troops back, he ordered them to establish camp while he and a select few returned to rally reinforcements. The prospect of seeking help was a bitter pill to swallow, his pride wounded. Despite berating Prefect Lu in a fit of rage, Sun Pu now found himself sharing Shao Yunduan's fate. The sting of humiliation was swift and profound. However, if he did not personally go back to get reinforcements, who knew when he would be able to move over if he only sent a deputy general back? He did not want to wait, nor could he wait. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2149, Seeking Revenge. Restlessness gnawed at him. Without seeking revenge, he couldn't find peace. Furthermore, with the emperor's cousin still embroiled in conflict against the fourth prince in Hunan, Sun Pu had to resolve the situation flawlessly before the cousin's return. Failure would not only disappoint the emperor's cousin but also risk his father's disapproval. Among them were several contenders, bound by blood as cousins, clan brethren, and promising talents, intensifying the rivalry among them. Opportunities to make a mark were scarce, and Sun Pu knew he had to seize any chance to shine. Falling short would likely dim his prospects for standing out in the future. Driven by his aspirations and pride, Sun Pu cast aside caution, resolved to mobilize reinforcements at any cost. In Huaishi province, the populace and officials harbored newfound confidence in Shao Yunduan after their victory in the initial skirmish. Following the battle, Shao Yunduan hastened to An's province to reassure Qiao Xian before swiftly returning to Huaishi. This time, he was accompanied by his wife, Qiao Xian, and their son, Anan. 3 days after Qiao Xian hosted a lavish banquet for the noblewomen and dignitaries of Huaishi province, Shao Yunduan received alarming news. Sun Pu was marching towards Huaishi province at the head of a 50,000-strong army. The gleam of armor and the glint of cold, sharp weapons heralded their advance, accompanied by a seemingly endless convoy of supply-laden carriages. Catapults, ladders, and other siege equipment adorned their ranks, signaling Sun Pu's unwavering determination to seize the provincial capital this time. He aimed to expose Shao Yunduan's alleged rebellion, eager to vindicate his suspicions and prove his righteousness. In his mind, not only was he innocent, but he also sought to claim credit for his actions. With 50,000 soldiers under his command, Sun Pu possessed ample force to lay waste to Huaishi province. Despite his confidence, he still regarded Shao Yunduan with disdain. He believed his previous defeat stemmed from underestimating Shao Yunduan's cunning, falling prey to his adversary's traps. But he resolved not to repeat that mistake. There would be no second loss. Shao Yunduan would be deluding himself if he thought he could outmaneuver Sun Pu's numerical superiority. Furthermore, Sun Pu would leave no room for chance, issuing a direct order to attack the city. With 50,000 formidable soldiers at his command, Sun Pu exuded a confidence not to be trifled with. He aimed to assert dominance and secure an advantageous position, yet Sun Pu's forces made no effort to conceal their presence, acting brazenly and with impunity, heedless of detection. They even boasted of being an 80,000-strong elite force. Anticipating a grueling battle, Shao Yunduan, Jing Sang, and their comrades were prepared for the onslaught. Presently, they could muster between 6,000 to 8,900 soldiers, including a contingent of hastily trained recruits. On the flip side, Jing Sang and Wu Guan felt a resurgence of their battlefield fervor. They thumped their chests, vowing to Shao Yunduan that victory would be theirs. Facing a newcomer like Sun Pu, defeat seemed improbable. Despite Sun Pu's formidable reputation, his presence sent ripples of unease through Huaishi province. However, the continued operation of the local government and the presence of Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian's family within the city brought a modicum of reassurance. Fan Rian brimmed with excitement, sensing opportunity once more. She frequented the mansions, aligning herself firmly with Shao Yunduan's cause and rallying support in his favor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2150, She's paving the way for her daughter. Lord Shao's love for the people rivals that of a father for his own children. His prowess assures victory in this battle. Who does Sun Pu think he is? If Lord Shao could defeat him once, he can do it again. Our Lord Shao excels in leveraging numbers to triumph. Those marauders who've plagued An's province for over a decade will meet their end at his hands. Lord Shao is blessed with luck. We needn't fret over a thing. Let's simply lead good lives. Lord Shao is astute, he must have foreseen this and made preparations. We can entrust everything to him. Fan Rian's incessant praise of Lord Shao painted her as his staunchest supporter. To her, everything Lord Shao uttered was gospel truth. Yet, her motivations were not purely altruistic. By championing Lord Shao, she positioned herself favorably in his eyes. She was clearing the path for her daughter's future. Fan Rian's words resonated with some families, prompting introspection. They recognized the logic in her sentiments. After all, Lord Shao had demonstrated his mettle by overcoming formidable odds and emerging victorious with fewer troops. It was evident that he possessed true capability. Therefore, they decided to observe the unfolding events with keen interest. Regrettably, Fan Rian's foresight faltered when it came to the ultimate outcome. With Sun Pu's forces encroaching upon the city, Shao Yunduan convened discussions with Jing Sang, Jia Hemming, and their cohorts. They issued a flurry of directives, setting their plans swiftly into motion. The city boasted ample supplies of food, medicine, and weaponry, along with a robust defense force. However, mere defense wasn't their aim. They sought to turn the tide of the situation. But first, they needed to quell the populace's fears. In addition to offering reassuring guidance, they bolstered patrols to swiftly extinguish any rumors that could stoke panic and disrupt order, nipping potential chaos in the bud. Fan Rian's compliments went unnoticed by the officials tasked with monitoring public sentiment. As long as the prominent families remained outwardly innocent, they deemed their job done. Recording the source of the positive remarks was of little concern to them. Their focus lay on identifying any potentially disruptive behavior. Unaware of Fan Rian's words, Shao Yunduan and Xiao Xian remained oblivious to the situation. Fan Rian's efforts proved futile, leaving her to wonder if she would be incensed if she knew the truth. Meanwhile, Sun Pu's army established their camp 20 miles from Huaishi province, positioned against a towering mountain with ready access to water from the nearby river. Although the mountain lacked formidable defenses or strategic advantages, it served as a reliable water source and stood as a symbol of the ordinary, yet expansive, landscape awaiting reclamation and cultivation. The valley stretching at the mountain's base was predominantly cultivated by farmers from nearby villages. Sun Pu's army, encamped nearby, paid little heed to these agricultural endeavors. Despite the absence of immediate danger, Sun Pu remained indifferent. His focus remained fixed on his original objective, to besiege the city. In his eyes, with 50,000 soldiers at his disposal, offense was the best defense. He harbored no desire to be caught off guard again. This time, even if the opposing forces attempted a nocturnal ambush, they would find no opportunity to gain the upper hand. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2151. She likes this perfect. Sun Pu wanted to make it clear to them that in the face of overwhelming strength, all schemes and plots were futile. Shao Yunduan and his companions were aware of Sun Pu's camp location, yet the opposition remained undeterred, revealing nothing. Zheng Sang scoffed, if the Sun family's descendants are all like this, their decline is inevitable. It's regrettable that old General Sun is fated to meet his end here. In truth, old General Sun's heroic reputation had already faded. It was lost amidst the power struggles among the capital's princes. The current Sun was but a shadow of the valiant and honorable general he once was on the battlefield. More sorrowful than witnessing a hero's decline was seeing them turn to villainy. Shao Yunduan declared, I lack prowess in combat. Mr. Zheng, you lead the battle, and Deputy Prefect Jia oversees logistics. I'll manage affairs here, awaiting your triumphant return. Zheng Sang and Jia Hemming rose and bowed. You can rely on us, Lord. Shao Yunduan wasn't solely responsible for maintaining order and overseeing affairs, but he certainly wasn't idle either. He made it a point to appear at the city's highest point daily to uplift morale. Within a span of just 3 days, Sun Pu's forces would settle in and initiate their assault on the city. Xiao Xian couldn't help but chuckle upon learning that Sun Pu's army had stationed themselves 20 miles away from Huaishi province at the mountain's base. This was exactly to her liking. Even within the city confines, her abilities could extend in one direction, effectively covering over 20 miles. As the wife of a soldier, it was only natural for her to lend her assistance as Huaishi province's troops approached the city. In the afternoon, Xiao Xian intended to patrol the city walls alongside Shao Yunduan. Upon meeting his gaze, Xiao Xian showed no fear. She gently tugged at his sleeve, whispering, Please take me with you, my husband. You're tasked with reassuring and uplifting spirits. By accompanying you, I too can offer reassurance and boost morale. If even a feeble woman like myself isn't afraid, what is there to fear? Shao Yunduan found amusement in her unconventional request. With a smile, he replied, Your logic is undeniable. If you're keen on joining, then let's proceed. Change into your riding attire, and we'll set off together. All right. Xiao Xian was thrilled. She swiftly changed into her riding gear, pulling her hair up into a high ponytail. Following suit were Li Qiu, Kaiyue, and the others accompanying her, all donning similar attire. They exuded a sense of valor and vigor. Considering their mission to boost morale, it seemed fitting. The results surpassed expectations. Xiao Xian and Shao Yunduan appeared at the city summit, Xiao Xian and her attendants adorned in attire radiating heroism and strength. The soldiers atop the walls were invigorated, brimming with newfound confidence. To witness even Madame Shao, a woman, displaying such determination and courage, what reason did the men have to fear? Xiao Xian was pleased with the outcome. Elevating morale and fortifying the army's spirit laid the groundwork for victory. Winning the initial battle on this foundation would be even more exhilarating. Upon returning to the government office's courtyard, Xiao Xian strolled through the garden. Utilizing the surrounding flora as conduits, she casually and discreetly tapped into her unique ability, swiftly and silently making her way toward Sun Pu's army encampment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2152, Land collapse. 20 miles didn't seem like a daunting distance, especially for someone with her superpower. However, the prospect of eliminating 50,000 people in one fell swoop presented a formidable challenge. Xiao Xian had never entertained such a thought. The idea alone felt surreal. Should Shao Yunduan and the province of Huaishi fall into the clutches of malevolent forces, the consequences would be dire. Nor would Xiao Xian ever entertain the notion of sacrificing so many lives. She didn't even consider tampering with their supplies. With a mere thought, she could reduce their provisions to a muddy mess within a 500-meter radius. But she refrained. Beyond the city walls lay numerous villages and hamlets. The arrival of 50,000 soldiers and their menacing aura forced the common folk to shutter their homes or flee to the safety of distant relatives and friends. Should their provisions be destroyed, the likelihood of the soldiers turning to plunder the innocent villagers was a grim certainty. Such a scenario was unacceptable to Xiao Xian. Her focus remained fixed on their siege equipment, ladders and catapults. Thus, without warning, the ground beneath Sun Pu's army, where the catapults and ladders were stationed, silently gave way. Ensnared by the roots of ancient trees that seemed to stir with life, the siege weapons were rendered useless, reduced to a heap of rubble unfit for further use. The intermediate camp buzzed with activity, filled with the clamor of people and the rhythmic trudging of feet. Positioned inconspicuously at the northeastern corner, the ladder and catapult drew little attention amid the bustling surroundings. Hence, no one took notice of anything amiss. Though a fleeting sound caught his ear, it seemed inconsequential, and he dismissed it without further thought. After all, who could anticipate the ground subtly yielding beneath them, swallowing everything in its path? Xiao Xian deliberately moved with caution to avoid drawing attention. Satisfied that her actions went unnoticed, Xiao Xian smiled contentedly as she set about preparing dinner for her husband and son. Come what may, they must eat well. For she knew the heavens wouldn't fall. With renewed determination, she poured her energy into crafting a savory meal to ensure their comfort. As the bustling camp settled into evening, Sun Pu resolved to launch his attack come morning. Impatient anticipation fueled his eagerness for battle. In a war, when his side had the advantage, he naturally had to kill the other party in one go. The longer he delayed, the more morale would be affected. This was not beneficial to him at all. Being a descendant of the Sun family, he grasped such straightforward reasoning effortlessly. His accompanying generals eagerly flexed their fists in anticipation, eager to seize the opportunity for military acclaim while in his company. Moreover, as a defector and once the emperor's top advisor and the crown prince's favored confidant, defeating him would catapult any general to newfound fame. The anticipation among the generals surged even higher. Prefect Lu, sharing Sun Pu's conviction, joined the fray. Like Sun Pu, he harbored unwavering confidence in their impending victory. He clung to hopes of reclaiming his lost fortunes within the province, undeterred by Shao Yunduan's appropriation of his wealth. For him, reclaiming his wealth was merely a matter of carving a path through the opposition. Sun Pu recognized his significance. After all, Prefect Liu's tenure as magistrate held sway in these territories. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2153. Strange, he knew this place like the back of his hand. After the city was attacked, he had to rely on Prefect Lu to appease the people and stabilize the situation. Only Prefect Lu had such influence. The citizens would only feel reassured when they saw a familiar face like his. Sun Pu firmly believed that the residents of the city were loyal to the empire and would never side with Shao Yunduan. He was determined to save them in this battle. Everything had been arranged for Shao Yunduan and the Huaishi province. However, just before dawn, as they were preparing to set off, a junior officer responsible for guarding the catapults and siege ladders stumbled in. His face was pale, and he stammered in fear as he reported what he had witnessed. Good luck and favorable omens were crucial at the start of the campaign. Seeing the officer rush in with a pale, terrified expression, Sun Pu was initially very displeased and felt like reprimanding him. But upon hearing the officer's report, he was left dumbfounded. "I think you haven't woken up yet. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you realize I could have you executed for demoralizing the troops? General, please forgive me. Even if I had 100 lives, would never dare to spout nonsense. Everything I said is true. I am just as puzzled." Sun Pu, furious, kicked the leader aside and rushed over like a whirlwind. He wanted to personally expose the supposed lie. Unexpectedly, what he saw was chaos and a huge pit. "What's going on?" Sun Pu's eyes widened, and he gritted his teeth, feeling a surge of murderous intent. How unlucky. He was on the verge of a breakdown just before setting off. The leader, still staggering, knelt down with a long face and said, "General, I don't know what happened either." Sun Pu kicked him again and drew his sword, pointing its tip at him as he scolded, "You don't know?" The commotion was huge. "How dare you say you don't know anything? Are you deaf or blind?" The leader, writhing in pain and nearly blacking out, remained kneeling and begged for mercy. "I am innocent, General. I wasn't slacking off. But this is Huaishi province, and Shao Yunduan is so cunning. He must have sent someone to sabotage us. Yes, it must be him." Sun Pu's heart skipped a beat. He actually believed it a little. Shao Yunduan was indeed a cunning man. He would definitely do such a thing. Perhaps he had really schemed against him. But, even so, you didn't put in enough effort. If you were truly vigilant in doing your job, how could you only realize something was wrong at this moment? Killing you wouldn't be wrong at all. Sun Pu raised his sword, genuinely wanting to kill. His trusted aide hurriedly stopped him and reminded him, "General, the battle is imminent. It's not appropriate to shed blood now. Please reconsider." Sun Pu sneered and retracted his sword. He ordered his men to tie up the leader and everyone who had been on night duty the previous evening. "I'll settle the score with him after I take down Huaishi province." "General, should we proceed with the attack on the city?" another general asked softly. Sun Pu's face darkened again. He was so angry he felt like he was about to vomit blood. The mobilization had already been mobilized, and they had already ordered everyone to gather. They would set off in an hour. Of course, they had to fight this battle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible.